According to South Africa's Bureau of Economic Research, a wealth tax could cause the tax base to shrink over time as a select few wealthy South Africans attempt to avoid paying more in taxes. The idea, which was initially presented at the ANC's national conference in 2017, advocates for a wealth tax that is suitably organized and may be connected to a land tax in order to promote equity and generate money. According to the newspaper, the top 5% of high net worth individuals in estates with considerable assets should ideally be the aim, according to the government. All right, economist with Vetiva Capital Management, Ibukun Omoyeni, joins us to discuss further. Ibukun, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. The South African economy is still recovering from COVID, and then we've got the Russia invasion of Ukraine causing volatile markets. Is this a good time to be talking about implementing a wealth tax?
Thank you for having me, Rotus. With respect to the wealth tax, of course, all governments across the world, at least, once you are not Russia and you are a country, you actually face an economic challenge given the impact of the war in Ukraine. And what we've seen in South Africa is that the government has made attempts to lessen the burden on poorer citizens by raising its tax bracket. It did that just when it released its budget earlier in the year. And when you look at the budgetary performance, you discover that because of the boom in the mining sector, South Africa recorded higher tax revenues than usual. So the current clamor for a wealth tax may just be to reduce inequality, but in the meantime, you see that South Africa is actually performing better compared to several other African peers like Nigeria when you look at their tax revenue performance for 2021.
And there's lots of talk around taxation. We have the Secretary General of the United Nations calling for a tax on oil and gas profits, for instance. Looking at South Africa specifically, will a wealth tax cause an exodus of the elites in South Africa?
Well, that question is dependent on how high the tax would go, right? Because no matter the height of the tax or how high the tax rate is, if you have your business and you're making returns that exceed the cost of running the business as well as the tax, of course you can as well stay in the country and pass on that tax probably your consumers or something, right? But looking at the way things are currently, a lot of economies are grappling under several challenges, and you just want to raise revenue, right? Look at Nigeria, for instance. They are seeing more revenues from coal and all that. So I think it's just a way of looking at how to raise more revenue. Of course, looking at the US, look at the situation on ground, right? When there was COVID-19 lockdown and oil companies were at a loss, right? Nobody said, let's find a way to cater for these companies, right? But now when oil prices are high, they are thinking of finding a way to remove that windfall. The truth is that there are cycles when it comes to economic events, and you just have to implement policies to ensure that your system is better run, right? And what can you do? For example, social spending. You could actually apply some of the funds from your windfall profit to provide certain services to the poor in society. You can create conditional cash transfers and other schemes in order to address the issue. But in the meantime, you would want to see a drastic policy that could actually have a greater impact on unemployment in the country.
Besides taxation, what other ways are there to reduce income inequality in nations like South Africa, where that gap continues to increase?
Of course, for several economies, right, that gap is always there. And the textbook policies, of course, include conditional cash transfers, increased social spending, of course, taxing the wealth to cater for the poor. But in reality, you discover that that gap might not go if you don't have sustainable investment in education and health, right? And these are long-term goals. If you want to close that gap, you need to put in place long-term policies, right? How are we investing in education? How are we investing in health? How is your economy producing what other economies need? You're not just importing. So once you can invest in health and education, those are ways you can actually reduce the inequality. Because in the long run, once your economy can produce what the world needs, right, you would be better off for it.
All right, let's move to sugar. The impact, or what do you make of the impact of the damage to, I guess, sugar output from the floods that hit KwaZulu-Natal?
Market reports suggest that sugar output is down by, as a case, by 2% in 2022 as a result of the floods in KwaZulu-Natal, and that's because KwaZulu-Natal is we have a lot of manufacturing industries in that particular area, and the floods has affected quite a number of industries aside the sugar plantations. And what that means is that the country would have to depend on imported sugar. And unlike Nigeria that imports a lot, so Nigeria also has some sort of self-sufficiency in sugar, but compared to Nigeria, South Africa produces a lot of things, right? That's why you see that the economy is quite more stable than Nigeria's economy. And as a result of these current floods, what you will see is more importation and, of course, higher sugar costs. So that would actually feed into other commodities that make use of sugar. And, of course, it could actually influence the inflation rates.
We understand other industries, there are industries that have been affected, like snacks. What about soft drinks? Can you also talk about other industries that have been impacted by this sugar, the hits to sugar?
Definitely, looking at snacks, for instance, soft drinks, beverages. Of course, all these require some kind of sugar, right? Sugar input. And what you would see is you have to rely on importation in order to fill that gap, right? But in the near term, because of course floods, the natural disaster, there's really nothing you can do. And all these agricultural products that have their seasons and their cycles. So you just want to import sugar, and of course it's come at a higher cost, but you just have to bear that burden for now. Well, there are other measures to mitigate these floods from reoccurrence in future.
Ibukun Omoyeni, economist with Vertiva Capital Management, thank you so much for joining us to talk about South Africa and the impact of the floods on its economy and also the proposed wealth tax. Thank you so much.